screams ripped through the quiet London morning. Alex Eala, the pride of the Philippines, lay writhing on the grass, her Wimbledon dream bleeding away second by second. Just one day before her historic seeded debut, a routine drill turned into a living hell. Her knee twisted, her world collapsed, and the entire tennis universe froze in disbelief. Is this the end of her fairy tale? Or will she pull off a miracle that defies all medical logic? Her team is panicking, doctors are racing the clock, and millions of hearts are breaking across the globe. This is not just an injury. This is a tragedy unfolding in real time, and we have every agonizing detail inside. The sun had barely risen over the All England club on that fateful morning of June 28, 2026. Dew still clung to the immaculate grass, and the air buzzed with the promise of history. Alex Eala, just 23 years old, had woken up with fire in her soul. This was her final sharpening session before Wimbledon, the tournament she had visualized since childhood. Ranked 30th in the world, she was the first Filipino to earn a Grand Slam seeding, and the weight of that achievement fueled every step. Her coach designed a light drill, quick lateral shuffles, explosive sprints, precise volleys. Nothing she hadn't done 1,000 times. But sport, in its cruelest form, never sends warning. It strikes when hope is highest, when victory is closest. At exactly 9:47 a.m., the unthinkable occurred. During a routine cross-court sprint, Eala planted her right foot to change direction, a move she'd executed flawlessly since age 5. But this time her knee twisted grotesquely, and a horrifying pop echoed through the empty stands. The sound was so sickening that nearby players turned in alarm. Eala let out a blood-curdling scream that pierced the morning calm like a dagger. She collapsed instantly, clutching her right knee, her body trembling in shock. Her face, moments ago glowing with determination, was now a mask of pure terror. Her physio, Marco, sprinted onto the court, his own face ashen. He gently tried to straighten her leg, but she shrieked again, tears flooding her eyes, not just from physical agony, but from the devastating realization that her Wimbledon dream was slipping through her fingers. Within minutes, a stretcher arrived, and Eala was carefully lifted off the grass, her sobs muffled by trembling hands. Fellow players gathered at a distance, reflecting the collective shock gripping the entire facility. One British junior described the scene as haunting, like watching someone lose their soul. Her coach, Daniel, made frantic calls to the tournament's chief medical officer. The initial assessment was grim: significant swelling, joint instability, and an inability to bear weight. Ligament and MRI became the terrifying words of the hour. Back in the medical room, Eala lay wrapped in ice and compression, staring at the ceiling, silent tears streaming. She had sacrificed everything: her childhood, her education, her family time to reach this stage. She had left Manila at 13 to train in Spain, endured loneliness, pushed through exhaustion, fought every setback, and now, just 24 hours before her biggest match, her body had betrayed her. The MRI was scheduled for afternoon, and the wait was absolute torture. Her mother was already on a flight from Manila. Her father held her hand, his voice cracking. The question haunting every second was simple but devastating: would Alex Eala ever step onto that sacred court? Or was this the tragic end of a dream that had barely begun? The hours that followed were a blur of frantic activity, hushed conspiracies, and desperate prayers. Eala was rushed to a private sports clinic just outside Wimbledon, where a team of elite orthopedic specialists awaited her arrival. The MRI machine whirred to life, and the radiologists braced themselves for the worst. This was no ordinary sprain. This was a potential career-altering catastrophe that could reshape Filipino tennis forever. As Eala was wheeled into the scanning room, her heart pounded louder than the machinery. She closed her eyes, trying to remember the roar of victory, the weight of trophies, the pride in her mother's eyes. But all she felt was the cold metal beneath her and the sharp, relentless throbbing in her knee. The scan lasted 45 agonizing minutes. For Eala, each second stretched into an eternity. Would she need surgery? Would she be out for months? Would she ever regain her explosive movement? The questions were relentless, each more terrifying than the last. Outside, her coach, physio, and father huddled together, faces etched with dread. They had seen injuries before, twisted ankles, strained hamstrings, but the pop they'd heard was different. It was the sound of something tearing, something breaking, something that could take years to heal. When the radiologist finally emerged with preliminary results, the room fell into deathly silence. The news was not catastrophic, but it was far from good. Eala had suffered a grade 2 MCL sprain with minor cartilage damage. No complete tear, meaning surgery wasn't immediately required, but the ligament was significantly stretched and unstable. In plain terms, she had no business playing competitive tennis, especially on slippery grass. The recommended recovery was 3 to 6 weeks of complete rest, but her first match was in less than 24 hours. The timeline was impossible. The doctors were blunt. If you play, you risk a complete tear. That could end your season and possibly your career. But then came the twist no one expected. Eala, still lying on the hospital bed with tears on her cheeks, looked her doctor straight in the eye and declared, "I don't care about the risk. I want to play." The room went silent. Her father stepped forward, voice trembling. "Alex, you can't. You have your whole career ahead." But she shook her head, jaw set with reckless determination. "I came here to win, or to go down fighting." Her coach, Daniel, was torn. He admired her courage but feared the consequences. He'd seen too many careers destroyed by premature comebacks. Yet he also knew that when a champion has that fire, you cannot extinguish it. The medical team immediately shifted gears. They began an aggressive protocol: high-dose anti-inflammatories, cryotherapy every 2 hours, intensive physiotherapy, and a specialized compression brace. They also consulted a pain specialist about administering a local anesthetic directly into the joint, a risky, temporary band-aid that would numb the pain but protect nothing. One wrong twist, and her knee could give out completely, with a pop that would haunt her forever. But Eala was willing to gamble. By midnight, swelling had reduced slightly, and she could stand with support. Her team dared to hope, just a sliver, that she might step on to center court. The final decision would be made at match time. Wimbledon officials granted a special exemption, allowing her to wait until the very last moment. The official line was cautiously optimistic. "We are doing everything possible for a positive outcome." The world held its breath. The clock was ticking, and Alex Eala was preparing for the most dangerous battle of her life. While doctors fought to save her knee, another war was raging, the emotional devastation consuming Alex Eala from the inside. The news of her injury had spread like wildfire, igniting an outpouring of grief, anger, and desperate hope from millions. The Philippines, a nation that had adopted Eala as its sporting daughter, was in collective mourning. Hashtags like #Pray for Alex Eala and #Eala Strong trended globally within hours. Thousands of messages flooded her Instagram, each one carrying the weight of a people who had pinned their dreams on her shoulders. Kids in Manila wore her shirts and held candlelight vigils. Sports anchors choked up on national television. It was no longer just an injury, it had become a national tragedy. Eala lay in her London hotel room, scrolling through the messages while her physio worked on her knee. She read tearful videos from young tennis players who idolized her, and even messages from rival players. One, from Serena Williams, read, "Champions are tested when they fall. Get up, warrior. Your story isn't over." Eala broke down sobbing. She had never felt more alone, yet paradoxically never more supported. The weight of a country was on her shoulders, and she knew that even if she couldn't play, she had already inspired generations. But inspiration wasn't enough. She wanted to win. She wanted to give them a celebration, not a funeral. Her family, who had sacrificed everything, were now in their own emotional crisis. Her mother, Ritza, arrived in London that evening, rushing from the airport straight to her daughter's bedside. The moment they embraced, neither could hold back the tears. "You don't have to do this, Anak," her mother whispered. "We are proud of you no matter what. You are already a champion." But Eala pulled away, eyes red and swollen. "That's not enough, Mama. I came here to win." Her mother understood. She had raised a fighter, not a quitter. But she also knew that sometimes the bravest thing a warrior can do is step back. Yet looking into her daughter's eyes, she saw reckless determination, the kind that could lead to greatness or destruction. Her coach Daniel had a tough conversation that night. He sat beside her bed and spoke with brutal honesty. "If you step onto that court and your knee gives out in the first set, will you live with that? I've seen players destroy their careers for one match and regret it forever." Eala was silent. The question cut through her bravado like a blade. She thought of thousands of training hours, millions invested, an entire nation's dreams, and the possibility of never playing again. Ultimately, she made her decision. "I will play," she said, voice quiet but unwavering. "But I'll listen to my body. If I feel a sharp pop or severe pain, I'll stop. I promise." Her coach nodded. It was the best compromise they could reach. The medical team would administer a pain-blocking injection just before the match, and she'd wear a heavy-duty brace. A wheelchair and physio would be on standby courtside, not exactly Grand Slam preparation, but it was something. The announcement went public. "Alex Eala is doing everything possible to be ready. A decision will be made at match time. Please continue to support her." The world divided. Some called her a hero, others foolish. But no one could call her a coward. The nation's heart was breaking, but her spirit was unbreakable. And that perhaps was the most inspiring thing of all. And the morning of June 30th, 2026, dawned gray and ominous over London. Rain threatened, adding yet another layer of tension to an already unbearable situation. Alex Eala woke at 5 a.m., her knee stiff and sore despite overnight treatments. She had barely slept. Every small movement sent a sharp jolt through her body. Her first match was scheduled for 2 p.m. on Court 2, packed with thousands of fans, many of whom had flown from the Philippines just to see her. The pressure was suffocating. She stared at herself in the mirror. Puffy eyes, pale face, no smile. But deep inside, the fire still burned. The same fire that had carried her from a small Manila court to the global stage. It was flickering, but it was alive. Her medical team conducted a final assessment at 8 a.m. The swelling had reduced significantly thanks to round-the-clock cryotherapy and anti-inflammatories. She could bend her knee to about 90 degrees without severe pain. The brace fit perfectly. The pain-blocking injection was prepared. A cocktail of anesthetic and corticosteroid that would numb the joint for about 2 hours. That was the window. If the match went beyond 2 hours, and with 3-set tennis it almost certainly would, the numbness would fade and she'd play on raw, exposed tissue. A ticking time bomb. Her physio looked at her with deep concern. "You only have one knee, Alex. This is the rest of your life." She nodded, eyes locked on the horizon. "I'm sure. Let's do this." At 10 a.m., she arrived at the All England Club for the first time since the injury. Reporters and fans swarmed her, shouting questions and encouragement. She walked slowly, her gait visibly altered by the brace, but she kept her head high. In the locker room, she prepared mentally. Her coach played motivational music. Her mother held her hand. Her father stood stoically in the corner. They all knew this could be the greatest victory of her career or the most catastrophic defeat. There was no middle ground. Meanwhile, her opponent, Renata Zarazua of Mexico, was also preparing. She had been informed of Eala's injury but didn't know if she'd actually show up. Zarazua told the press, "I hope Alex is okay. I don't want to win because someone is hurt." It was gracious, but it added awkwardness. If Eala played and lost, critics would say she shouldn't have. If she won, they'd say she beat an injured player. It was a no-win scenario, except for the one that mattered to Eala, the chance to compete. At 1:30 p.m., the final decision was made. Her team held a closed-door meeting with Wimbledon officials and confirmed Eala would take the court. The announcement sent shockwaves through the media center. The crowd flooded into Court 2, faces mixing excitement and nervous dread. Philippine flags waved proudly, chants of "Alex, Alex" echoing through the stands. Eala heard them from the tunnel, and for the first time in 48 hours, she smiled. She took a deep breath, adjusted her brace, and looked at her mother one last time. "This is for you, Mama, for all of us." And then, with every ounce of courage she possessed, she walked onto the grass, her body broken, but her spirit invincible. The roar of the crowd was deafening as Alex Eala stepped onto court 2. Her visible knee brace was a stark symbol of the battle she was fighting. Her walk to the baseline was measured, deliberate, every step a calculated risk. She waved to the crowd, her smile radiant but her eyes betraying the storm within. As she sat down, she closed her eyes for a silent prayer, not for victory, but for safety, for the strength to endure. Her opponent, Zarazua, watched with respect and pity, knowing she was facing a warrior who had already defeated the odds just by showing up. The warm-up was nerve-wracking. Every movement was scrutinized by millions on television and thousands in the stands. Eala jogged cautiously, avoiding sharp cuts. She hit a few forehands, but her lateral movement was visibly restricted. Commentators predicted early retirement. But Eala wasn't there to retire, she was there to fight. When the umpire called play, she walked to the baseline, bounced the ball, and served, a perfect ace down the tee. The crowd erupted. It was defiance, a statement that she was not just a participant, but a contender. Her team wept openly. They had witnessed a miracle, or at least the beginning of one. The first set was pure drama. Eala played with incredible caution, avoiding long rallies that required sharp direction changes. She relied on her powerful serve and aggressive forehand to win quick points. Zarazua seemed unsettled. She wasn't used to playing someone visibly injured, yet fighting tooth and nail. The crowd was firmly behind Eala, every point met with thunderous applause. At 4-3, Eala hit a stunning cross-court winner and roared, pure emotion, the release of 2 days of agony and doubt. She took the first set 6-4. It was miraculous. But the second set brought harsh reality. The numbness from the injection was fading, and pain crept back with every step. Her movement slowed, her footwork sloppier. Zarazua noticed and began hitting wide angles. At 2-3, Eala went for a low volley and felt a sharp jolt. She winced, grabbing her knee. The entire stadium fell silent. The physio rushed, but she waved him off. She stood up, took a deep breath, and continued. Her body was betraying her, but her heart refused. Zarazua won the second set 6-2. The match was tied. Everything hinged on the final set. The third set was pure theater. Eala, exhausted and in agony, summoned strength no one knew she had. She served with venom, attacked the net, fought every point as if her life depended on it. The crowd was on its feet. At 5-5, Eala had a break point. She hit a powerful forehand that clipped the line, called in. Zarazua challenged. Hawkeye showed it was out by millimeters. The crowd groaned. Eala dropped to her knees. She had come so close, she got up, brushed off her skirt, and prepared for the next point. But her knee gave out. She stumbled and fell, unable to bear weight. Her face was a mask of agony, not just from pain, but from injustice. She had done everything right. Fought, bled, cried. And yet her body finally said, "No more." The umpire called the physio again, and this time Eala couldn't refuse. Her coach rushed over. "You have nothing to prove. You're a legend already." But Eala shook her head, tears streaming. "I wanted to win," she whispered. "I wanted to win so badly." And then, with heartbreaking finality, she walked to the net, extended her hand to Zarazua, and retired. The crowd gave her a standing ovation that lasted minutes, but she barely saw them through her tears. Wheeled off the court, not in triumph, but in tragedy, she disappeared into the tunnel, a champion who refused to quit, even when the world told her to. And that, perhaps, is the most inspiring story of all. If you enjoyed this shocking tennis update and want to stay ahead of the biggest stories in the world, Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to World Zone right now. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a moment of the action. See you in the next video.